Welcome everyone once again to the Spanish Breakfast Show live on YouTooSpain. I'm Skatz, and every week, as usual, I'm finding the answers to lots of your questions about how to move to Spain, how to fit in, what it's like to live there, by speaking to experts and expats and people with a story to tell. So you can ask your questions right now in the chat box, or if you're not watching live, in the comments below. Either way, we'll get you some answers. And my lovely wife is looking in and will be on the chat under the name U2 Aromatherapy, I believe. So if I miss any questions, she'll pass them on to me. So give her a wave, everybody. Hello, Liz. And today we're going to be talking about two things. First of all, we have the final part in the series of 4 videos about the non-lucrative visa. And after that, we'll give you some up-to-date news about who's allowed to travel into Spain and why some people have been refused entry. If you just want that travel update and you're watching back afterwards, then you can skip to about halfway through this video. Otherwise, stick around to learn from and ask questions to our resident expert about the non-lucrative visa. So without further ado, let's go live to Malaga and connect with Chris from Up Sticks. Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
So thank you once again for giving up your Saturday morning to help everyone. We've had about 2,000 views of this non-lucrative visa series of videos so far. So it's great.
Oh, excellent! Wow.
Yeah, it's good to know that people are getting the help, and that's very pleasing. So we've covered the basics of the non-lucrative visa and the financial side and the medical health insurance side. So today is all about the other details. So let's summarize what those things are to start with, and of those other things that non-EU citizens need to know.
Excellent. Yeah. So as you say, we went through the medical stuff and the financial stuff, but there is other bits and bobs that you need to put in place for a non-lucrative visa. So we have criminal records checks. You have to prove you're not a criminal and you actually have got the right to leave the country. There's certain requirements for the passport as well. And if you're registering either children or with a spouse, there's certain translations that you need of documents as well to make sure that's correct. So I'll start actually with the first thing, which is the passport.
Okay.
So your passport, and I've actually got the official guidance here to remind me, so we can go for it. Your passport must have at least a year left on the passport. So you need because that is the period of the visa, evidently, that you're going to be getting. So you need to have at least a year left expiry date on your passport. And also you need 2 free pages in the passport, because you'll need 2 free pages for the visa to be stuck in it. So if you don't meet any of those requirements, you'd have to have that sorted out before you went for your appointment. It's also a good idea when you go for your appointment to take a copy of every single page of the passport. Okay. So the reason they do this is at any immigration appointment, what they'll do is they'll look at the original document, and then they will take a copy, make sure the copy matches the original one, and they do this thing called compulsar, which means they stamp it to verify when it goes into its file that the original's been seen, because they're not going to hold the original passport. Okay, so that's the passport. The criminal records check now is very important to remind you that no documents can be more than 90 days old at the time of your appointment. Okay. So the criminal records check, you need to get that. That also needs to have an apostille, so it needs to be verified and have the apostille. It's a sticker really, more than a stamp, we call it the stamp on it. And that would also need to have a translation. So you need a literal translation of that.
So that criminal record check, does that go back all the way to birth? How does that work?
5 years. 5 years it goes. Okay. 5 years, yeah. So I think it goes all the way back, but you need to prove more than 5 years, I think it is. So you have to. The big thing is the timing. So we're getting a lot of people at the moment who are looking at November, December. I'm just like, there's no point putting the paperwork together now, because everything's going to be out of date by the time you get there. So that is the big thing. Going on to spouses and children. So obviously you need to be able to, if there's somebody is a beneficiary of somebody else in an application, i.e., for example, say the wife or a husband of somebody is relying on their money for the joint application, you would need to submit a translation of the wedding certificate, and the wedding certificate would also need to carry the Apostille Hague stamp as well. So
Okay.
very important that it's been verified and that there's an official translation. It can't just be a Google translation on a Word doc. It would need to be the official translator from a verified translator in Spain. And
Where do you find them?
mainly in Spain. So when we do it for our clients, we've actually got a translator that we use, and we courier the documents directly to the client. So it's always best, translators in Spain, apart from the fact that it's more economical to get it done by somebody here. Most of the time they'll work off good scans. They don't actually have to see the original document themselves. And then the original translations do have to be sent. And then that is joined. So, for example, if you've got a marriage certificate or a criminal record certificate, you would take to the appointment the original document, a copy of the original document. You would take your translation and a copy of the translation. So they would verify the original document, keep the copy, verify the translation, keep the copy.
Mm-hmm. Actually, we got a message from Paul Howes saying, my wife and I are applying for the non-lucrative visa. Now, the paperwork required is incredible. The criminal records check and medical check paperwork have to be notarized and legalized and translated. That's exactly what you just said, isn't it? So, and this all takes so much time, so you have to plan well ahead.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. Yeah, you have to plan well ahead. And I mean, one of the biggest things, and what I'm telling everybody is with immigration or anything immigration, especially at this period that we're in now, but remember, this is brand new. Non-lucrative visas isn't something that Brits needed before, and all the embassies and the consulates are dealing with it. And obviously, a lot's going to come out in the wash this year. So you've got to be flexible. Got to be flexible with the time, and also plan it very well. So be ready to hit the button when you need to go. But if you're looking at coming in November, December, early next year, there's absolutely no point in getting the ball rolling with certain parts of the paperwork, like the criminal records check, because it'll be out of date.
Yeah. And Liz is asking, where do you get the criminal record check from?
The government, there's a website actually on I'll send you the link so you can put it at the bottom of the video afterwards. Good. With a very useful article from Upsticks.
Excellent. And Craig just says, good morning all. And Paul says, the embassy in Manchester will give you a list of authorised translators in the UK. Okay, so
that's good. That's very handy to have. That probably if he could stick a link, or if he has got a list there, then we could stick a document as well on your video.
Yes, Paul, if you can do that in the comments below rather than in the chat box, if you've got that would be really helpful, so people who are watching back afterwards can see that. And,
so then obviously moving forward from those, we've already been through the health and financial stuff, so we won't touch on that. It's just your application forms that you have to fill in. So there's an application form called the 01, which you need to fill in. There's also a separate application form which is in Spanish, so you take two, which one of them has your photo stuck on it. We didn't mention photos, so you need take two photos with you as well. And then obviously at the time of the appointment, you'd have to pay the £516 fee. I think it is there. And there's another small fee which is on the model 790, which you have to pay, which I haven't actually got here in front of me. I think it's about £19 as well. So you pay that at the time of the application, and obviously that is non-refundable if you get rejected.
Right.
So yeah, sure. So it's a quite a complicated process, but it is achievable.
Yeah, good. And with people like you helping people to get there, it's you kind of help them create a file, don't you, which which they
We
can
do,
take with
yeah.
them.
So what we do is we've got a checklist. So first thing we do is when I first talk to somebody and we do our call, 15-minute call, and just see what do they qualify. So yeah, okay, you qualify. Right, what we're going to do now, send you over a bit more information, and we've got some links to stuff which people can read into, because that gives them the information they need for our next conversation. So then once they've read that information, I then speak to them, we go through a checklist. We basically go through what we're talking about now. So we'll start with point one, passport. How old's your passport? This, that, and the other. Right. So first of all, we work out the timeline. So if somebody's saying, I want to come in March 2022, I'll be like, right, okay, well, we need to get started at this point. This is what you might need to get in place now. We then run through the checklist, making sure that everybody's got what they need, and then we have a little bit at the end, which is like additional information. So if someone's got a property here, for example, we'll pull off a document called a notice simply, which just backs up the application. It shows that they've already got interest in Spain and own a property here, etc., etc.
Right. Barry Roberts says that's an expensive process for just 1 year. Is that the case for a non-lucrative visa? I think. Does he mean for the next?
It is an expensive process for 1 year, but then once you've been here the year, you need to renew that visa for 2 years. Okay, so the fees to renew the visa isn't you don't have to pay the £500 again, but there is a Model 790 that you have to pay on the renewal. But when you come to renew it, you renew it for 2 years. So just going back to what we said about the financial side of things, as long as you can prove that everything's in place, so you would get your criminal records checks from Spain, actually, after your first visa, you'd have your original check as well. You have to prove you've got double the money or double the income, because that covers you for the 2-year period after that. So yeah.
Yeah. Paul says that they applied for an appointment thinking it would take months to come through, but it came through the next week, so they had to put it back. But they got another one, no problem. So things are moving a bit faster by the look of it.
Where was that part? I'd be interested to know where that was. I know in Manchester they've been very good with appointments. London, not so.
He mentioned Manchester earlier. So it must be. Because he's the same one that said the list of authorised translators. That was from Manchester. Yeah, he says Manchester.
Brilliant. Yeah, the Manchester seem to have been very responsive. I have to say, they're very responsive with their emails and information. Not so in London. I'm sure London have been hammered as well, though, by appointment requests. So.
Did you say what the cost to renew was? Barry's just asked that.
Do you know what? I haven't got. So I think the actual renewal, you don't have to pay the fee. You pay a renewal fee, which is a $790. I actually haven't got it here, so I'll give you the information when I find it out.
Okay. So, yes, we'll pop that in the comments then, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the non-lucrative visa then before we move on to travel?
I think that's about it. I think we've covered, the requirements over the videos. So yeah, no, I think that's it now. The only thing I would say is what we'll probably do is, as these appointments are going through, we could probably do an update video in a month or so, just to say, right, this is the experience of our first client. I'd really be happy to say, okay, well, I think our first appointment's actually next month, and then after then they start steadily going in. So that's when you find out that, well, actually the nuances in Manchester is they're asking for this, or in London they're asking for that now. So yeah, we might be able to do a video along those lines as soon as the first few start going through.
Yes, the nuances. I love that word. So just before we go on to travel, then what should we talk about in 2 weeks' time? Should we move on to another visa?
I'll tell you what would be good and very close to your heart would be maybe talking about if you can ride off the back of an EU citizen and get him residency that way. There's quite a lot of confusion out there on what's required and how to do it, because there's a 2-stage process and which order you have to do it in, and can you get in the country if you haven't started it, and et cetera, which also relates to the travel, what we're talking about now. So maybe we could do a couple of videos on that, or do that in one.
Yeah. Okay then. So travel news. Oh, Barry says yes. Excellent. That's popular then. So let's move on then. So the hot topic at the moment, people from Britain have been trying to get to their properties in Spain. Some of them have been turned back when they've arrived at Spanish airports, and there are tourists who are chomping at the bit to try and get over there right now. Mixed messages between the UK government website and the Spanish government website, and the border guards, the staff at airports on both sides of the water are interpreting their rules in their own way too. So what's your take on it? Who can travel?
Yeah, it's crazy. As you say, the problem is, and I was just discussing this before we went live, is that it's so grayscale depending on the person you either get at the UK end or when you arrive in Spain. So ultimately there's sort of 2 points where before you get on the plane, if your documentation's accepted, and then when you arrive in Spain, if it's accepted there. And there's been a lot of confusion regarding the documents which are accepted. We've seen it we've seen it in the news and quite famously everywhere. And then sometimes what happens is one person will get through maybe with a rental contract, and then they'll put that online, and then everybody says it's 100% definite you can get through with a rental contract, and then the next person to get on a plane gets knocked back. So what we have got, and I think you've got it there, haven't you, is if we're working backwards, is have we got that? There we go.
Yes.
So if we work from the Spanish end, that's the official guidance from the Spanish government of what proves that you are a beneficiary of the withdrawal agreement, and that allows you access into Spain from the Spanish end. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So those three documents there, you've got the top, a A4 green residency, EU style residency card certificate. If you have got one of these, I strongly advise you switch it for a TIE card, though you're not obliged to by law at the moment. I would say it's a good idea to do so. At the bottom, in the middle, you've got the smaller, newer version of the EU residency card, which if you've got that, that's also proof that you're a beneficiary of the withdrawal agreement. And at the bottom, evidently, you've got a TIE card. Now, no one's having problems with TIE cards getting in. I have seen people having problems from the British end with the big certificate for some reason. I don't know why. For all intents and purposes, those three documents should guarantee your travel. And if you're not being allowed to return back to the country where you live, then it's wrong. That is with that PDF that I sent you. We actually also on the first 3 pages of the law highlighted just 2 points there. One was that anybody holding those documents is classed as a beneficiary of the withdrawal agreement, and that the switch to the TIE card is voluntary. And that's how it stands at the moment. So if you did have any trouble at the border, you might just want to show them that and that document from their government. The other problem is obviously coming in from the UK. I mean, there's been all sorts, hasn't there, on Facebook and stuff, of people being turned away, there's all sorts of advice. If you've got a padron, if you've got a rental contract, if you've got proof that you're going to see an estate agent. I was just talking to a work colleague of mine now, and he said that, they've been told, look, if we've got proof from a notary that you're closing on a sale, you can get through. Problem is when you actually get to the Malaga border, if the police will allow that. Or you get to the desk at Ryanair and you show them something in Spanish, is that person going to understand that and say, oh yeah, of course you can get on, or not. So I say that travelling at the moment, as it was before, if you've got a residency card, you should be guaranteed entry, but anything else is ambiguous. Although the UK government website says that you can use everything.
There's such a big list of exceptions, and it's got a list of recommended documents as well, and that's the dodgy word, isn't it? It's recommendations. It depends on the staff you get at the airport in wherever you're flying from in the UK and wherever you land. You're saying that Alicante's, they're just turning them back quite a lot in Alicante.
Yeah, we keep seeing like horror stories of people being turned back because they're coming, they're trying, and because they're coming through with certain things. What is quite scary is people being turned away now, because we haven't spoken about this, with documents that they've actually got their residency approved, and and they haven't been able to get back to do the fingerprints. So you've got when you make an application within the withdrawal agreement, you have 2 digital documents, or 2 documents that you would have got. One is the proof that it's been applied for, okay, which is listed as a document you can use. And the other one, which is more important, is the proof that the application has been accepted, and this is called a resolution. Now, these 2 documents at the moment also seem to be causing a few problems for people travelling and people understanding what they are. So, so there's that problem, and there's also the problem of once you've got your acceptance and you've been to the police station and you've given your fingerprints. There's a document called I think I've got one here. Anyway, it's a document that proves that you've actually been, and this document is as good as a residency card as well. You know, everybody gets one when they renew their residency card, or they've been to do their fingerprints. This also should allow you to travel, but the advice from Spain is that if you have this document, which is called a resguardo, then you need to get a ADR certificate. If you're going back for a funeral, for example, unfortunately we've had a couple of those. So you need to visit the police station. An ADR certificate is autorización de regreso, which means authorization to return. It's a very similar process to get an NIE certificate. You go in, you take your proof that you've ordered your card, prove who you are with your passport. Always handy to take an updated padron, because they just like updated padrons. And then a couple of days later, you get a certificate saying this person is authorized to travel, which means you can travel out and you can travel back in, and that lasts for 90 days, that certificate.
Right. Got a few questions coming in. Let's just cover those ones very quickly through. Somebody asking about the golden visa. We'll move on to that, Josie, on another week. That's a separate one. Paul's asking, driving licenses, do we need to take a test now?
Good question. At the moment, yes. So what happened with the driving licenses was on the 1st of January, if you hadn't pre-registered your driving license with the DGT, then there's no longer the facility to exchange them for a Spanish one, right? The DGT have allowed this period up to the end of June for people to drive with the British driving licenses, on the assumption is that's how long it's going to take to get rid of the backlog of people who need to exchange. So the exchange process is actually broken down into 2 now. People who have pre-registered will now need to go to an appointment and formalise, should we say, that exchange. Now, if you haven't pre-registered a driving licence, then you would need to now take a test to get a Spanish driving licence. But there's a big but at the moment. You have got until that period, the end of June, to still drive with your British driving licence, at which point the assumption, and that's another very good word that politicians probably use a lot more, but the assumption is that there will be an agreement between the UK and Spain then to start switching the licences. So if there isn't at that point, then you will need to take a test to drive in Spain.
Yeah, it's going to be a shame for all of those people who are now booking their tests and everything and having to pay for all of that, and then they get through and then they change the rules.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, as I said, there's no need to book a test, I don't think, at the moment. Just keep a sharp eye on June. If it starts getting to June, and it looks like there's not going to be an agreement in place, and you may need to start looking at the fact that you're going to have to get a Spanish driving license and start from scratch. So that's
next question. Sharon Clark says we want to try and go in October, but we want to move to Tenerife. Would Upsticks deal with us? You cover Tenerife as well?
Yeah, we can do. We can help you with the first part of the process, which is getting the non-lucrative visa and assisting with the consulting and everything to the point where you travel. But we couldn't help you in person in Tenerife. As much as I'd love to actually fly over to Tenerife and go to the police station there. What we do is we help with both stages. So you get your visa. When you come to Spain, you then have to formalise the process in the police station by taking documents and giving fingerprints. So we either help in person in Malaga or Granada, or we do it remotely if people are elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Good. And if you need to do that, Sharon, go to upsticks.es and arrange that phone call. So, any more questions? Yes. Oh, Barry Roberts says, can we travel for business as we have a villa out there that we let out? And what are the documents required?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, that goes down to the ambiguity of no, I don't think you can. It's whoever. If you haven't got a padron, if you've got a property, you can prove you've got a property, and you've got any documentation that you prove that you need to actually get to it, then somebody might let you through. But I don't think you'd get through.
Yeah, Craig says if you're getting your villa ready for rental, then it's allowed. But that's what it says on the British government website. It's one of the exceptions, but not necessarily on the Spanish, and you'd have difficulty getting in, I think, especially if you came into Alicante.
Yeah, if you go to Alicante, you might, Malaga. I know people who come through Malaga with rental contracts, for example, but it wouldn't be something that I'd be putting on my website going, now you can use a rental contract, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
you had an estate agent in your office before. What did he say?
He's here now. Actually, he's saying the same. So you were saying, weren't you, that it's just ambiguous, isn't it? You can get documents.
It's a grey area, and it's
a grey area. It's hit and miss, basically. So you can, if you're completing a property sale here I'm here with Equitas Property. I've given them a shout on the video.
Good plan.
Then they will prepare documents for the notary. You'll have proof from the notary, an appointment from the notary. Maybe there might be a pre-contract, etc. Payments made. I haven't forgot anything there. Well, that's about it, really. So you'd have a pre-contract. You might even have a mortgage agreement or something like that. And all of this proves that you're coming to complete on the property. But it's basically when you get here at the end, look at it and go, nah, we're going to accept that, or yes, we are. So basically it. Good.
Well, that's about it. Unless if you've got any more questions, we've got 3 minutes left of your time before you have to get off.
I do very so. No, that's it really. So just thank you for having me on for this series, and then next week we'll carry on with the EU / non-EU residency application process here in Spain.
Brilliant. So do we have any more questions? No, I think that's everything. And Sharon says thanks for that. She'll be in touch, and they'll deal with somebody else in Tenerife when they get there.
Brilliant.
Okay, so
excellent.
Let me just switch us around on screen so that we don't get back on you when we say goodbye. And so we'll see you next week.
Much.
Thanks very much again, once again. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, so next week on YouTooSpain then. We don't have Chris next week, he's every 2 weeks. We have a top 10 tips special where we'll be looking at the most important things you need to think about when preparing to move to Spain from Britain, or indeed from any country really, but we're looking particularly at non-EU. And I may have a guest or two online. You'll just have to wait and see who they are. Don't forget to check out the Liz and Skatz channel. We broadcast live every Wednesday evening, and that's not just about our journey to come to Spain. That's also about health and weight loss, because we lost over 110 pounds between us. And Liz also does free yoga and meditation classes online, and that's YouTube Yoga. And she also has YouTube Aromatherapy, which has just started broadcasting live yesterday, I think. And of course, check out Chris's YouTube channel, Upsticks, because he has got a series of videos all about different visas and everything else about the process. And his website, of course, upsticks.es. Thank you, Barry, for the compliments there, and everybody else. Some or all of those links to those things that I've mentioned can be found in the video description below. So that's all for this week. Thank you all so much for your questions. Don't forget to click on the like button. That helps us, as well as giving that lovely thumbs up. It makes us feel good. And yes, so thanks for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Peace and love. Goodbye for now. And